Welcome into Inside Black and Gold, our Week 9 edition, getting ready for the Carolina Panthers against the New Orleans Saints. A hot one in the NFC South this weekend. Jeff, obviously, the last time these two teams met, things were a lot different. Hoping that the Saints can maybe get back on track in this game. I don't know, but I think the Panthers are looking at the Saints going, if we're going to win another game this season, this might be the one to do it.
Yeah, that's the sad thing is the 1-7 team is looking at the 2-6 team and be like, oh, this is our chance. We might not lose the rest of our games because that team's showing up. And, I'd say, okay, if you're the Saints and you're like, hey, we got our starting quarterback back, we better win this freaking game. I think Bobby Hebert would have said, he phrased it like this would be rock bottom if the Saints, lost.
It's hard not to disagree with that take, right?
Feels right. It's like, that's the worst team in the NFL, and this is a chance for the Saints to decide are you the second worst team in the NFL? Are you the third worst team in the NFL? How bad are you exactly? But yeah, it was Halloween yesterday, and this is going to be a horror movie. It's going to be ugly. It's not going to be a pretty game, and you hope for the Saints' sake that they can win in a convincing enough fashion that we can at least take some positives out of it. Right? Like that's the problem with a game like this is you go in there and you win an ugly game, you win like 20-16 or it's like, oh, that's bad. That's not good. Especially because how you beat them the first time when they were healthy, when they had all their players. You go in there and you can't do that again. And so then people are gonna be like, well, what changed? And like, well, we got worse apparently. So I don't know.
Yeah, but I think even if you go into this matchup, you blow out the Panthers, nobody's still buying stock in the Saints.
Oh, no, but at least you can say like, hey, okay, we're kind of tapping back into what we had earlier in the season and we're healthy again. And we're going to, you can at least make that, it's not a good take, but it's at least
you can go back to pointing. We're not that bad.
You can't look at it and be like, well, that can't possibly be true. Cause they should like, if you go in there and you can't throw the ball, you can't run the ball, you win because Bryce Young lets you win. How do you? Because you got to build. Well, the only way this season turns around, and I'm saying this because we have a podcast and we have to talk about a team, not because I believe it's going to happen. But the only way this season turns around is if you go to Carolina and you win and you build some confidence, and you to do that you need to win in such a way that is confidence inspiring, and then you welcome the Falcons to your house and you find a way to beat them. Like that's the only way this season turns around. Because you're not taking a wild card spot. You're not winning the division if you drop both games to the Falcons. So that's the only way. You got to. And here's the thing: if you win, you're 2-2 in the division. You can be 3-2 in the division. You have a chance to go 4-2 in the division. And then You're kind of sitting there at 9-8 in the same situation you were last year, and hopefully do better in the tiebreaker. Which, in order to do that, I think the Falcons are going to be that team this year. I have a hard time seeing the Bucs remaining competitive with some of the pieces they've lost, and even like Bucky Irving is dealing with a toe injury that's not going away. So like they're in a tough spot too. So again, you just got to win these games. But all right, we're going to talk about this game. We're going to go through some notes from the week. It's not really a ton to talk about. It's kind of a boring week of news because it's pretty straightforward to go win a freaking game. But we're going to talk about, defensive backs. Could be a major issue. We're going to talk about Chris Olave. He got a new helmet. It's kind of fun. We could talk about that a little bit. I do want to talk about Cam Jordan's comments. He talked about, hey, team meetings, the kind of the fan interactions he's had and just the mood in the fan base at large. Because it is kind of a fascinating thing of like, what is the actual mood of the fan base? Is it what we see on Twitter or is it like, what we see in a grocery store? Because I think those are two different things. I think you have an interesting perspective because you answer the phones after the games. So we'll talk about that. Second segment, we're going to bring in Des Johnson, host of Believe in Panthers. We've had him on before. Last time we talked to him, he was like kind of mildly confident about what this Panthers team could do. And I think that has changed drastically. So we'll hit that and go through what's up with the Panthers, what's changed. Have they committed to Bryce Young or are they going to throw him to the curb? We'll find out. And then final segment, we'll go through X factors as we always do. Although I don't know, the X factor is either you win or you don't, but whatever, we'll go through that. But Steve, how you feeling? What's your where are you pointing right now?
We mentioned that, you look at this Carolina Panthers team and, we go into those tough matchups against teams, and you're like, oh, this is a measuring stick to see just how, competitive we can be. Well, we know if the Saints can't beat this Panther squad, which may be the worst team in the NFL, if you can't beat them, then you start looking, going, wait a minute, are we the worst team in the NFL?
Yeah,
hoping that this, the Derek Carr infusion back into the offense does make the difference, because I think it was pretty evident that poor, Spencer Rattler and Jay Kaner were kind of in over their heads with what they were dealing with in the situation they were put in, just because of all the wreckage around them when it came to the injuries and just the inconsistent O-line, the pass catchers. It's been a perfect storm of just being a not great situation for young quarterbacks that are late round picks that weren't expected to be thrust into this right away.
Yeah, if it's a measuring stick game, it's like, but the measure, the liquid or whatever you're measuring is like at the very bottom of the, like you're only, like, you can only get like 2 inches up the measuring stick. That is much bigger than 2 inches, because that's the game. Like, you're not measuring anything. You're just measuring whether you're the worst or not. But either way, so a few things that happened this week. So Chris Olave, he started the week everyone wears a Guardian cap in practice, but he started the week wearing one of those pullovers, like the logo slip cover that you would wear if you were going to wear it in a game. He didn't have that on Thursday. We talked to him on Thursday, and he kind of talked about that, how he changed helmets, and he's now in the best helmet. Best, I guess, the relative term, but like the safest, I thought that was funny. The safest helmet. And I don't know, like, you wouldn't really go into it much, but it sounds like if it makes it much less likely that you will get a concussion, which my question is like, why weren't you wearing that in the first place? I guess, players are pretty particular about their helmet. I remember Antonio Brown had a long saga with the Raiders about like, no, I want to wear this helmet. And they were like, that's not allowed anymore. You cannot wear that helmet. And he was like, I'm going to wear this helmet. Like, if you wear that helmet, we'll suspend you. He's like, I'm going to wear this helmet. He ended up on the Bucks. But so, like, I think that's part of it, is like, guys don't want to change their helmet. But at a certain point, it's like, if you got guys who have had a single concussion in their career, diagnosed at least, they should be made to wear these helmets. If there's any scientific evidence that they help you prevent concussions, why aren't they all wearing them?
That's why when Chris said, when he asked, which helmet is it? He's like, I don't know. I just know it's, top of the line, the safest one. I'm like, isn't everyone wearing the safest one?
You would think. Like, why? Why are we not? It's
like, so you said, I guess preference for whatever reason.
It's probably a little heavier. It probably affects like some of the movement. And that's why, like, the Guardian cap, I don't think it adds much weight, but it's just bulky, and I think that's probably what players would say is like, when you're wearing that bulky helmet, it makes it a little harder to get you're maybe a little off balance. Like, yeah, you feel like you're a lighthouse, like, like you're moving like Batman out there. Like, you can't move your shoulder, you can't move your neck,
Yeah.
But either way, and that's a good sign. He was wearing it last week. He took that hit. And that's the other thing. When you're a guy who's had a bunch of concussions, you end up in a scenario where anytime you take a hit that is like remotely concussion worthy, they're gonna check you. And that's what happened against the Chargers. Like, he didn't really even hit his head on that hit. His head just kind of whipped back. Right. And it's like, nope, that's Chris. We have to check him because he's had 3 concussions in the last 3 years. So although that helmet helps.
You never know in the NFL too. It was wild on Thursday Night Football. Man, oh man, I thought Devontae Adams certainly had a concussion after that.
Yeah, I didn't see the hit. I saw him go out, but he came back.
Right. Came back and got a touchdown.
Yeah, usually when guys go back in the locker room for a concussion check, they're
not
done.
Good.
Because it means they couldn't determine it on the field. But he came back, caught a touchdown. So I don't know. It's weird. But it's like, if you're serious about concussions and you're making players wear Guardian caps in practice, just make them wear the fancy helmet. Because I'm pretty sure if you wear a certain helmet, you don't have to wear a Guardian cap, because they are viewed to be the same efficacy against preventing concussions.
Okay.
So it's like, just have everyone wear the damn better helmet. I don't know.
Yeah, especially like you said, if you have a concussion history and it's been an issue, why wouldn't you want to do that just to protect your career?
Yeah, I did like the meme where, or I can't remember. Like, I've seen it in a few different places. They're like, we got Tua to wear a Guardian cap, and it was just a Cleveland Guardians hat.
Wow. Yeah, that's another one that makes no sense why he doesn't have one on.
I just think it just looks goofy to wear that. And especially when you're the quarterback and you're like in every highlight and it's like, oh, he's wearing that hat again. He's wearing the Guardians cap. So I don't know. Like, I think but at the same time, it's like, you want your career to last? You want to play football and not die? I don't know. Wear a fucking Guardian cap.
So yeah, it just comes down to like your quote fashion sense with it. You have a problem like, oh, because it looks a little funny.
It does feel that way. I do think that's part of it. Is like, you don't want to be the guy, the first quarterback
right,
to wear one. But do you want to be the quarterback that has forced to retire because of too many head injuries? Because that's what's next.
Yeah, start showing these guys that Will Smith movie.
Right. Anyway, so the other issue this week, defensive back concerns. We talked about this on the Wednesday episode, and it only got worse because Kool-Aid McKinstry missed Thursday's practice. We're recording this prior to Friday's practice. We don't know exactly where he's at, but when you have a guy downgraded midweek,
that's
not a good sign. And you already have Marshawn Lattimore, hamstring, didn't practice either the first 2 days. Rico Payton, back injury, didn't practice either the first 2 days. Kool-Aid, obviously, with a hamstring, and Paulson Adebo's on injured reserve.
He ain't coming back.
A broken femur. He's not coming back. Who knows when he's going to be ready to play again, period. But that means that you're going into this game with your fourth and fifth options at outside corner, really? Right? I guess that's not true, because Alante might be your third option. So, but he is your nickel.
That's one. That's Alante. But who's going to be, if you have to do outside and all those guys are out, who's next to him?
Ugo Amadi. Right. And then who's your nickel? Like, you're probably calling up Trey Herndon.
Absolutely.
Jamar Charles. Like these are your options, and they're not good options. So if it was any other team, I would be like, this is going to be the reason they lose. I think you can beat the Panthers. Like they traded their only wide receiver. Like, okay, like, can you stop Xavier Legette? Probably.
Thielen's hurting too. He's dealing with an injury.
Yeah, I think he's still on IR, isn't he?
No, Thielen was limited the past 2 days.
That doesn't mean he's not on IR.
Oh, okay.
It just means, has he been active?
I wasn't even sure. I didn't even know he was on IR, so that's my bad.
He was at one point in the season. He hasn't played since week 3. So if he's active, he hasn't been active in a game. I don't know if he's returned. I'd have to check. It's not really that important, but he's coming back from injured reserve. I don't expect him to play, because if you can't even get a full practice, you haven't played in a month, and you haven't gotten a full practice, why would we expect you to play? So I think you're going to be looking at like Jalen Coker and all these guys. But here's the thing. I said that last week, and then the Chargers still were able to do stuff on offense. So I don't know. Either way, like, that's a problem. So we're going to have to see how they handle that.
No, yeah, you look at what the Panthers have, and I mean, obviously, the only thing that scares me is Chuba Hubbard.
Chuba. Yeah, we'll see. The Saints played him once; they stopped him once, so.
And they were decent against the run against the Chargers. They just couldn't do other things.
Yeah, I think they've started to figure something out.
Something.
I don't know exactly what, but getting Pete Werner back was helpful. He's not hurt this week, so
that was awesome, right? I thought he was going to be back on the not practicing list after seeing him leave late.
So either way, we'll see how that goes. One other thing, so we talked to Cam Jordan about, like, okay, are there team meetings? Has the team kind of let go of the rope? Is the question, and this is what he had to say when he was kind of pressed on that subject yesterday.
We had a dinner where we talked about, what's getting across, what's the mission statement, and the same is just, we got to find a way to win. I mean, I could tell you everything that happened in the meeting, but that's not going to tell us how we're going to win Sunday. I could tell you, everything that happened in the game plan from Wednesday, Thursday, and will happen tomorrow. That won't tell you how to win. At the end of the day, this is a winning business, and we have to be able to have a good business to win.
I think when a team loses 6 games in a row, there's going to be fair questions of like, hey, is the buy-in still there? Is the locker room still there? And I think that's when DA's talking about, hey, we had a meeting and we feel like things are going in the right direction. I think that's the question. Do you kind of get that sense?
DA's had a meeting with the captains. Captains have had a talk just between ourselves. We've had talks with our position groups. Talking is talking. Until we walk in, it's going to be hard for people to be like, oh, they're bought in. I'm bought in. There's blood to be bled, and I'm always going to bleed black and gold.
Do you guys have a team-wide players meeting?
Not yet. It's probably happening soon, though. I mean, I think that everybody understands exactly where we are. And I feel like when people aren't bought in is when you have like a team meeting. I feel like this is something that you feel in the morning meetings. It's something you feel in the locker room. It's something you feel at practice, how everybody wants to win and talks about winning and still talks about winning. So there's not a dire need of like, oh, he's not bought in. It's a dire need of it's time to prove that we are a winning organization.
So, yeah, that was Cam kind of talking about, hey, team meetings, player meetings. The captains had a meeting. The team itself, the larger team, like the entire team, hasn't had a team-only meeting at this point. And the thing is, like, people be like, oh, what a big deal. Who cares? That's a pretty significant step when you say, hey, all 53 members of this roster go in that room. Coaches aren't allowed. Like, that's not something you just do. That's something you do when you feel like you have to do it. The Saints haven't done it yet, but it sounds like they're considering it. And that's always the question is like, okay, are you losing the locker room? And I ask that question because it's important, because if you lose the locker room, you get fired as a coach. Like, to me, that's the trigger. You can lose games as long as you feel like the team is all together and pulling in the same direction.
Right. They can't be checked
survive
out.
As a coach. I don't know if you survive to the next year, but you can make it through the season. Once you lose the locker room and it's fractured, you're done. So those questions are important to hear the answers for. And you're not going to hear, Cam's a good enough media person that he's not going to just come out and say something stupid in that situation. But he's also, I think, to an extent, incapable of lying completely. Like, he's going to betray some level of insight into what's going on because he can't help himself. And I think he did. Like, I think it's like, we're getting close. Like, we need to start winning, or we are going to start having to have those meetings.
Yeah. What is it? The joke that folks are already, starting to plan vacations already.
I mean, and that's the thing. It's like, yeah, you can pretend, hey, we're going to work our way back. We're going to start winning games. If you don't win this game, then you're not winning in any game. Like, you might lose out.
This is when you lose. You talk about the players have hope, any kind of hope. The fan base, if there's any kind of, maybe we can do something, that will be completely erased. It's been awful as it is. Just, you mentioned, what you've been hearing on the phone lines or in the grocery store, whatever it is. I feel like a lot of fans have already checked out.
Yeah, and this is what Cam had to say when he was kind of asked that question.
How frustrating is that part of just knowing how the fans are?
You know how much I'm in the city. Now, them aunties, them TTs coming now. They coming for real business. I don't know what's wrong with us. If you have that answer, let me know. So tell me how we can win, and I'm all in. This city stands behind the Saints 9 times out of 10, unless you check Twitter. And then you'd assume that the fan base has left us, but everybody that I come in contact with, I was just at 2 different schools this Tuesday. I was just at the grocery store getting fired up by the lady at the counter. The city is frustrated with our losing, and at the same time still behind us. And just like the players here, got to find a way to win.
All right, so yeah, Twitter catching strays, which I can't blame, and I do think that's interesting because people don't know who I am when I wander around in public. I don't have to worry about someone at Rouse's being like, "What the f? Like, why are you so bad? Why are the Saints so bad?" But so my appreciation for how Saints fans are feeling, or typically like already the people that I know, the people that know me, because they know I cover the team, and so they're like, what's going on? Why isn't it? I'm like, But like, I don't have to deal with Saints fandom at large. Like, I don't have to deal with the random person in a grocery store who I don't know who's just going to yell at me. Cam does. Like, the Saints players do. So they have a different experience for that than I do. But a lot of my appreciation for how people are feeling does come from social media, from the interactions on Twitter and all these burner accounts that can't help themselves, but like, whatever. And then on YouTube, with a lot of the comments on YouTube. So that's where I'm kind of building that from. Like, I'm not going out and I'm not cold calling Saints fans and be like, hey, how you feeling? Are you good?
Oh,
right. I don't send out mailers and see like, okay, 1 through 10, how sad are you right now? So it is an interesting question. And I think you have a better appreciation for it than I do, because you deal with the callers and you got people calling in and telling you how they feel. And so how do you think it's going? What's the level of frustration on a scale of 1 to 10 right now for Saints fans?
I think we're at a 9.8.
You think it's a 9.8?
Everybody's there. For me, at least, I feel like this fan base is ready to clear house with everybody and everything.
Yeah, see, but like is that an overreaction?
There's no hope from this Who Dat Nation right now.
But I think you're basing that off of the most angry fans. You're not basing that off of like Susie H, who tunes in on Sundays and then goes and knits. Like you're basing that off of the loudest, most angry fan is at a 9.8. But you think the average Saints fan is at a 9.8?
At this point right now, yeah, I think the most folks are at the point now where Dennis Allen's got to go. Derek Carr's got to go. Mickey Loomis has to go. And it's even now Mrs. Benson's catching strays.
But that's the case when they're 4-6. That's the case when they're 6-5 and have lost a game. Like, that doesn't mean that the average fan is at a 10, which is a 9.8 average rounded up. I don't know. Because you don't have to be at a 10 to say fire the coach. Like people will yell fire the coach at a 6, in my opinion. No,
I hear you on that. I feel like we've seen it in the Dome. When they come back to play Atlanta, we'll see what attendance is like there too. But, when you see Saints fans now bringing back the bags too, that's never obviously a good thing. I just feel like the frustration's been mounted to a point where the only thing that's going to appease Hoodats now is some kind of change.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible.
Like I said, winning this week will mean nothing to them.
Yeah, you got to win multiple games, right? But if you're telling me that if you won 4 or 5 games in a row, like people wouldn't come back, you wouldn't be like, hey.
Well, I can't even fathom that kind of outcome at this point.
Well, if you're the team, you would say, hey, we were playing without our starting quarterback.
Sure.
And when the starting quarterback was there, we looked like a competent franchise. And when he was not, we looked like an incompetent franchise.
They still lost 2 in a row with Derek under center.
Yeah, but you lost in very different ways.
Absolutely. But, all I care about is the result. All I care about are the results.
You can't look past the results.
No, I cannot.
Did you see DA in his press conference? He was like, we can't solely be focused on the results. And then he was just like, wait, no, don't quote me on, like, hold on. The results matter. Let's be okay. But yeah, I just thought it was funny. I don't know. Like, I do think I do think you need to caution yourself from being like, okay, the angriest of angry fans is what we're going to set as the baseline, because there's always going to be angry fans.
But I'm just saying too, there's been nothing positive coming in, at least on the phone lines.
Well, sure. Yeah, I believe that. And it's definitely high. I just don't know if I'd go 9.8, because there has to be a level beyond where we are right now. Because if you lose to the Panthers, it's got to go up.
I just see, like I said, Mrs. Benson now catching strays from folks, and even there's anger over the re-signing of Alvin Kamara.
Like, we've had people calling in.
They're like, why we even bother re-signing AK?
I thought people were happy about that. I got people happy about that. Like, I didn't see. I mean, a beat of beer is giving him a lifetime supply of beer. Like, there's some level of positivity around that. But again, like, yeah, there's going to be people mad about anything. I'm asking like the average, like if you had to average it out. I would say it's like at an 8 right now. And if you lose to the Panthers, you're getting to a 9.5, and then you continue losing and you get to a 10. And to me, a 10 is like people like picketing. People are going out there with signs and they're outside the building. And they're like, like that's a 10 to me.
No,
like, there's got to be because 10's the top, right?
No, and if the dome starts looking like Carolina this weekend.
Yeah, and I think it's going to get, I'm just saying, I think you have to leave room because it can get, my point is.
Maybe 9.8 was a bit high.
You have to leave room at the top because it can get real ugly. You can get like Browns level Belichick when they fired him, and he benched Kosar, I think it was Bernie Kosar. And like they basically ran him out of town. He was getting death threats. So like, I just think you got to leave room for that because it does exist.
All right. For me, at least I'll say though, since I've been around, and even, the tough times obviously with Sean were those 7 and 9 years, but like going into right now, this is definitely the worst I've experienced in my Saints dome of covering the team.
I think that's fair. I think this is probably the most frustrated I have witnessed this Saints fan base be. And whatever number you put that at, it's higher than I've seen it. Even in the worst Sean Payton years, this is higher. And yeah, you'd have to go back to Haslett, Ditka, some of those other coaching tenures. And I couldn't answer that for you because I wasn't here at that point. But I have to imagine it was similar to this. And that kind of tells you where you are in terms of, hey, you fired Ditka, you fired Haslett, but you got to the end of the season with Haslett.
Right.
He didn't fire Hazlitt midseason. So
no, I mean, could DA be stuck in Charlotte if they don't end up winning this game?
oh God, I hope so. But all right. Let's
just, one of those things now. It's like you're at the point for sure where you want to talk about do or die. It's like just do or stay alive at this point.
Right. You're talking about a game that it's like if you win it, you can at least spin the idea that we are not done with this season. Right. You can at least say, hey, it's the first game of many. We're going to win more.
Right. Derek's back. We're going to keep building off of that.
We ended the losing streak, and now we're going to start a winning streak. You can at least say that with a straight face. Right.
Yeah,
now, do you believe it?
Chopping wood if you lose in Charlotte.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Do you believe it? I don't know. Do with that information what you will. But you can at least say it and like maybe convince yourself that it's true. If you can't beat the Panthers, don't stand there and say, hey, we're going to get this thing figured out, because you're not. You're not going to figure it out. You got your quarterback back. You have most of your offense back, right? Now you got defensive questions, but the defense hasn't, it's like, I need you to score points.
Right.
Because that's, you can't win 0-0. You got to score points to win. So we'll see. Either way, let's wrap that segment up. That went longer than I thought, but it was a good conversation, I thought. And we're going to come back. We're going to talk to Des Johnson, host of the Believe in Carolina Panthers podcast. You talk about a team fan base at, it's funny because you talk about getting to a 10. And I think there is a point after a 10, and that 10 is when it goes back down to a 0 because people stop caring, right? Like when it's at a 10, you can at least say these guys care. The fans care. If you're at a 10 for long enough, it can drop to a 0 because they'll be like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I give up on you. And that's worse. And I think that might be where the Panthers are at right now. But because in order to get to a 10, you have to care. I don't even know if the 10 is on the Panthers scale, because I think there's a lot of fans who just don't care enough to get to a 10. And I think that is a positive thing about the Saints fan base, is they care enough to get as mad as they do. But either way, we'll talk to Des. We'll get the lowdown on where the Panthers are at right now, 1-7, Saints at 2-6. Going out to Charlotte, one of my least favorite cities in the nation. Good stuff. Who dat? We'll be right back. And we are back here on Inside Black and Gold. Jeff Nowak, Steve Geller, and as promised, we're bringing in familiar friend of the program, Desmond Johnson. He's the host of the Believe in Carolina Panthers podcast. He's also the owner/operator of Tobacco Road Sports Radio.com. And he's been suffering through this Panthers season just like we've been suffering through this Saints season. Last time we talked was before week 1. I think everyone was feeling a lot more optimistic on both sides of the table. How you doing, Des? How you handling another lost season here?
I don't know. It's to the point where we're kind of getting used to it, but that's the sad thing about it, that we're getting used to it here in the Carolinas. On one hand, we're kind of like, we kind of knew coming in that they were going to have to strip this down to the studs. And I think we got optimistic with some of the offseason moves they made that they could be competitive. But then once injuries and stuff set in, the first really 2-3 weeks of the season, especially on defense to main defensive starters like, Shaq Thompson, Derek Brown, once those guys like leaders in the locker room on the defensive side fell, then it just became a matter of the Panthers can't stop anybody. Like they can't stop anyone. And then with the latest stuff with Andy getting hurt and Bryce back in, and the crowd is divided, fans are divided between letting Bryce play the whole year or just whatever. And of course, Bryce is getting the start on Sunday. So we'll see. We'll see how this experiment plays out here in Carolina.
Looking at that quarterback situation, it was kind of odd making that switch, it seemed, to Andy as it was. I know Bryce was struggling, but you figure you want to go with the young guy you invested in as the top overall pick in the draft. What was the reasoning besides just trying to get, something, the best chance to win? I feel like you kind of stunt your young quarterback's growth even more by doing that.
I don't think that they have plans for Bryce Young, future plans for Bryce Young. I don't think that he's in their future plans. The only reason why he's playing is because Andy Dalton can't play. And that's pretty adamant in the words of Dave Canales when he's ever asked about him. He's so non-committal to Bryce at this point that it feels like if they get a good third or something for him between now and next Tuesday, then they'll take it and move on off of Bryce Young. I don't know what has happened. I've seen a lot of people saying that the play calling was different when Bryce was out there. It really wasn't. It's the same plays that Andy Dalton was running. It's just Andy's just going, taking deeper shots downfield. Bryce isn't even looking downfield right now, like at all. Like he's just taking the dump off, taking the check down, or throwing it behind the line of scrimmage. And you can't run an offense like this. So I kind of see Dave's point in terms of this isn't working. I'm basically only doing this because I have to. I don't have another quarterback to play, so I've got to play Bryce Young. And that's kind of where the situation's deteriorated to in Carolina so far right now on the Bryce Young situation.
Yeah, I remember people saying the same thing when Jameis got hurt and they went to Andy. Like, they're running different offense. Like, not really. Andy's just operating the offense differently. That's not the same thing. Like, he's not. There's reads and you're reading it a certain way, but it's just kind of funny. It's like, oh, it's working now. They must be calling it different. Like, sometimes it's just the quarterback's better at it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And Andy, he's just an older, more wiser quarterback that's more willing to take shots down the field at this point in his career, where I think Bryce is more shell shocked. He just can't in his mind. I don't know what's happened. I don't know if he'll be able to fix it here. But he just can't seem to get it in his mind to go downfield with the football. And now one of his main targets that they brought in to help him is no longer on the team. So it just makes the matters worse for Bryce and company. So I'm not really expecting him to have a great game. He hasn't had a great game in the 19 starts he's had. I know people pull up that Green Bay game from last year, but they lost that game. And I went back and actually checked the actual play-by-play, and it was all dink and dunk, 5-yard, 6-yard, passes or whatever. So I wouldn't really consider that a good game. So I don't know.
So with Andy, your read on it is like, even though he's practicing in full, his thumb's not playable, and that's the reason that he's not in there.
I think he probably could have went this week. I think he mentioned in the press conferences that he had a conversation with Canales, and they were discussing whether or not he should play or not, and they decided to kind of basically just let him sit another extra week. So I think he could have played if necessary, but letting Bryce go out there one more week, and I think our bye's coming up, that's probably the game plan. So I would expect Andy's going to be the starter the rest of the year. And I think Bryce knows this, Canales knows this, Andy knows this. So it's just a matter of, when Andy comes back out there, which, be honest, he might be back there Sunday. It might be so bad everything where they decide to throw Andy in there. I don't know if he'll be available. They said he wouldn't be the starter. So I imagine they might have him as the second string guy and be available in pad. So if something happens, they might put Andy back in. But I really do like the Bryce Young experiment's over in Carolina. Wow.
That's that's something.
Yeah.
So can you just go more into, so you mentioned the Deontay Johnson trade, didn't get, I think it was like a fifth for a sixth, like it basically gave him away to the Ravens. What's the deal there? What was it, just not working out? Obviously he's a guy that was brought in this year. Now you're looking, and it's not like you're looking at a wide receiver room that's particularly loaded. You're looking at Jalen Coker and David Moore, and obviously Xavier Leggett, who likes Aspergus. But how is that whole situation going?
Well, Joe Person from The Athletic, friend of mine, he was reporting that there was some tension in the locker room with Deontay Johnson and maybe the team and some of the coaching staff. He made some comments a couple weeks back where, to the media, he basically said he can't play all the positions, basically implying that he can't do everything to help them win football games. And they sold him on the idea of him helping Bryce Young develop into a better quarterback. That failed after 2 weeks. He had a great game or two with Andy Dalton when Andy first got in, and then Andy kind of come back down to earth too. And I think it just got to a point where he was getting frustrated that the offense was sputtering, and it feels like they basically paid Deontay to go away, pretty much, because they're paying a bulk of his salary too, to go to a Baltimore team where he won't be better than the third best wide receiver on the team, because they already had Zay Flowers and the other kid, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but the other wide receiver, the number 2, Deontay will probably be number 3 in that situation. Yeah. So he goes to a better situation, and the Panthers basically just kind of pick swapped, because in the end, if you look at what they did to get him, they traded off Deontay. They traded Dante Jackson, who was their starting cornerback, but they were about to cut him anyway, and I believe a 7th to Pittsburgh for Johnson and a 6, and then that 6 they end up trading with. So they moved up, but again, look at it. Baltimore's going to be picking at the bottom of the 5th round probably. So you're talking about the 28th to 29th pick of the 5th round. Yeah, and Carolina's going to pick in the top of the 6th. So it's like, how much did you really switch? Like 3 spots, yeah. And that's the question. It's like, what did you just do? Like, why? And really the only conclusion you can come to is that they didn't want him on the team anymore. Like, they we got to get him out of here. And I guess the young receivers will get a chance to shine. But if that's the case, why'd you bring him? Like, why'd you bring him here in the first place? Because you lose the compensatory pick too by sending him to Baltimore if he didn't resign in the offseason. So again, we don't know exactly what they're doing in Carolina at the moment.
Looking at one thing from this offense, the run game has at least had Chuba Hubbard been producing, having a decent season. I think it's underlooked by a lot of folks. Obviously, with this offense struggling, though, I get it. But what are the chances you guys get infused with some rookie talent this week with Jonathan Brooks being back maybe in the mix?
It's a possibility. He's getting closer. I know they're going to have to make a decision on him because his 21-day window is about to close. So if he doesn't play, I think either this week or next, then they got to put him on IR for the rest of the year. And Canales brought that up, that's a possibility that he might get put on IR for the whole year. So he did practice yesterday. He's been practicing the past 2 weeks. I'd love to see him out there, to be honest. But then again, if Canales is only going to run the ball like 15 times, then what does it really matter if Brooks is out there or not? So we've been waiting to see a Brooks-Hubbard kind of combo double back type system develop here. Now, if they're truly going towards a youth movement in Carolina, which is fine, they never really did it in any of the regimes that Tepper's brought in here since 2018. They're truly going to go young. Let's see what it is. We'll take the bumps with it, but we can't do this back and forth thing they've been doing where let's have a fire sale. Let's get rid of McCaffrey. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of that. Wait, we've won 4 games. Let's see if we can win the division. Wait, let's go ahead and tear it down. Like, they never completely tear down the whole thing. And I think this might be the start of them really tearing it down to the studs and then trying to rebuild.
Yeah, has the fan base kind of reached that point? Because that's like where we're at with the Saints right now. Is like the team is still like, hey, we're in it. We're gonna keep working. We're gonna keep chopping wood, and is like what they like to say. And like win a bunch of games at the end of the season against teams that have already kind of quit and then ruin that draft pick. Has the fan base kind of just accepted, hey, this is best case scenario is we pick at the top of the draft and actually get to make that pick this time, right?
Yeah, they're pretty apathetic, just like non-committal to the Panthers. It's been so long since there was been a winning season here that I don't think that they truly honestly feel like the Panthers know what they're doing. And a lot of times I think the fans have gotten to the point where they're tired of spending their Sundays watching whatever this is. And it's been that way for a couple of years now. Yeah. And now, especially when they see the team trading off guys that were actually good players that they actually went out and tried to bring in to build something, the overall sentiment is like, what are they doing? Like, why am I wasting my Sunday watching this when it doesn't appear that they even know exactly what they're doing at the moment? So it feels like a lot of them are just kind of like, not non-committal to the team and fandom right now with the Panthers.
Yeah, I guess how has things kind of gone for Dave Canales in particular? Because year one you can get away with look at Dan Campbell. I think he went 3-13-1 in his first year as head coach of the Lions. Was able to turn that around, go 9-8, and then kind of build it up. How has kind of this sentiment around Dave gone throughout this whole process? Kind
of wait and see. I think everyone's kind of willing to wait and see what's going to happen here because the idea when they hired Dave, it feels like he's kind of in over his head in terms of the situation. Not that he can't coach or he doesn't have the credibility or anything like that, but just the situation was going to be a hard one. I don't think any of them, Dan Morgan, Dave Canales, even David Tepper, I don't think they expected wins this year. I think they've known because they never really predicted, hey, this team can do this or do that. I think they kind of know that we're at the bottom, like right now in terms of this roster and the turnover, the mid-round picks that they gave up over the past 4 years chasing quarterbacks. This is where it's really starting to hurt, where they gave up second and third and fourth round picks to acquire Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield and bringing in these guys, hoping they could patch in at quarterback. And then they just didn't have that in the draft going forward. And now you're starting to see it depth-wise, where this team just doesn't have any depth once you get out of the starters. And if the starters are getting hurt, then you start seeing journeymen and practice squad players. They're actually starting for Carolina, and that's what's happening right now. And that's why they're giving up more points than any other Panther defense in history. I think they're on pace for any team in history right now in terms of points given up for a season. So it's not going to get any better. Like Jake DeLim said a couple weeks ago on the radio broadcast, nobody's coming to save us. So it just kind of is what it is right now. Hopefully they can tread water.
Really weird parallels between this team, between the roster issues with injuries, and then the fan base too right now is just at a loss, where the Houdats are always in full throttle, frothing at the mouth mode. And right now it's like, do I watch the Saints or cut the grass on Sunday? Just wondering with this Panthers squad, you mentioned, some of the young talent at wide receiver. And I've kind of been impressed with, I got to say, a kid in Jalen Coker, the undrafted rookie. What have you seen out of him?
Yeah, the undrafted rookie Jalen Coker. Steve Smith really liked him in the pre-draft stuff. So he was pretty impressive. Xavier Legette, the kid they went up for the first round to go draft, he's been good. He's going to get some extra run. Who's the other kid? David Moore. They're starting right now. Jonathan Mingo, who's a second-round pick a couple years ago. Now he'll have a chance to get some extra snaps. So I think right now they're just trying to shift through their young players and just kind of figure out who can we keep, who do we need to get rid of, that kind of thing. So they're in evaluation mode really more than anything else right now.
Yeah. So what would you say the strengths of this team are right now? Like the team that's going to show up and face the Saints on Sunday, demoralized, whatever they are. What are they doing well at this point in the season?
Really, the only group that's playing really well for the most part is the offensive line, which is crazy because last year that was the weakest group that we had. And they put their money in the offensive line in the offseason, and it's shown. Robert Hunt's probably been our best addition in the offseason, the guard that they brought in from Miami. The problem is they don't really run the ball as much as they could because they get behind early, and then they have to start throwing the football. But if they can lean on the run game and the offensive line early, that's really the strength of Carolina. Everything else is kind of in shambles in terms of injury or players not available or whatever it may be, just not enough players, especially on the defensive side. The secondary's been playing okay, but they get winded because they're out there so long during games. The second half, they kind of get torn up a little bit because they've been out there longer than they probably should have been. But the offensive line, I would say.
All right, one more quick question, I'll let you go. Panthers pick number 1 overall. They going quarterback?
This year, I don't think so.
No?
Honestly, I would go best player available, and to me, that'd be Travis Hunter from Colorado. I wouldn't trade down. I would actually draft Hunter, pair him with J.C. Horn in the secondary, and put him at wide receiver. Let him do what he does. That would be me. I don't think that Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward or any of these quarterbacks in this class are really one you want to kind of pitch your wagon to as the number 1 overall pick. I would just go best player available, and for me, I would say Travis Hunter, and then you go find somebody, whether you bring back Andy Dalton or whatever it may be, you go find somebody, a vet, to kind of plug in for a little bit here while you build everything else, because you don't have enough, even if you get a rookie quarterback, to really do anything with them right now. And I don't think they would go to Shedeur Sanders, or I don't think Shedeur Sanders would want to go to Charlotte, to be honest.
Right. Good point.
And I think Deion would try to block that. Cam Ward from Miami, maybe, but again, it's kind of like a poor man's version of a Cam Newton or whatnot. And I don't know if they would go that route either. I think they would probably go look for a veteran quarterback to run this offense and try to fix the defense in the draft next year. And Travis Hunter would be a big part of that.
Yeah, the last time they took a Cam number 1 overall went pretty well. So
pretty well, yeah.
Maybe that's where you go. All right, Desmond Johnson, appreciate the time. Host of the Believe in Carolina Panthers podcast, also the owner operator of Tobacco Road Sports Radio.com. Thanks, man. It's going to get better, I promise.
One day, yeah. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Let me know anytime. Thanks.
Appreciate you.
All right. There you have it. It's a pretty defeated sounding fan base right there.
Oh, yeah. Travis Hunter would help sell some tickets, too, for the Carolina Panthers.
I can't remember. There was a movie, and it was like, I can't remember, it was Annapolis or something like that. And he was like, he's talking to, I can't remember the name, even the name of the actor. He played Green Goblin. What's his name?
Defoe.
No, not the son of Defoe.
Franco.
Yeah, James Franco. He was like, "Hey, you're my Mississippi." He was like, "What does that mean?" He's like, "Well, one of the reasons, like Louisiana and Alabama, it was like we suck, but at least we're not Mississippi. They're worse. They're the worst in everything. You're my Mississippi, right?" That's how I feel about the Panthers.
Yeah,
like they're the Saints. The Saints have a Mississippi in the division, and it is the Carolina Panthers. Because as bad as things get, it will not be worse than whatever the hell they have going on there year after year after year after year after year. Like,
it was unreal to hear from Des that they're already thinking about moving on from Bryce, man.
Well, he's convinced they are.
Right.
Like, it's not even like
oh, maybe.
Yeah. I was expecting him to be like, yeah, we'll see how this week goes. And then maybe, yeah, if he shows some promise, like, no, they're done with him. Like, he's
like a third rounder for him.
The number 1 overall pick from 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they didn't
2 years, man.
Because they had the number 1 pick this past year, but they didn't get to make it in a draft where, like, you made the number 1 overall pick in a draft where there was a franchise quarterback available to you at number 1. You didn't take him. You took the other guy. And then in the process of taking that guy, you screwed your chance of taking a number 1 overall pick with in a draft where it seems like there's at least two surefire franchise guys at the top. You could have had either Jaden Daniels or Caleb Williams, and you got neither of them. You didn't even make a pick in the first round. You got Xavier Legette. Man.
And it just doesn't. Des mentioned this a little too. You keep shipping your top guys out of town. And McCaffrey, DJ Moore, Brian Burns. It's wild, Jeff. I don't understand. And I know, a lot of folks complain about Mrs. Benson as a team owner. Imagine having to deal with David Tepper.
Well, that's like the inverse of each other, right? Like people complain that Gale's not involved enough. I'm like, would you rather have that? That travesty? So yeah, it's a mess, man. That's a mess. Like having the idea that you made the number one overall pick in the draft and didn't get to make it, like that's crazy. Like we got mad. The Saints traded away like the 10th overall pick for like the 18th overall pick. We got mad about that. Imagine if the Saints had the worst record in the NFL. And here's the thing: typically, you won't have the worst record in the NFL unless you're trying to have it because you have your own pick. Like it's almost impossible to be the worst team in the NFL if you're not actually tanking. Like that's crazy. That's crazy. Anyway,
like I said, the talent is just definitely deprived over there, and a lot of it's their fault for shipping it out of town, and then obviously the huge mistakes in the draft.
But all these conversations are setting the stage for why, like, hey, if you can't beat this Panthers team,
yes,
tear it all down, break the glass,
right.
Press the button, hit eject. Like you're done. This season's kaput. You can't even pretend to me. Like if you cannot go out there and beat this Panthers team, then don't sit there in your press conferences, on your phone calls, on your whatever, talking to us, talking to the media, talking to your team. Don't sit there and pretend that we believe in this team. We think we're close. We think we're turning it around. No, if you can't beat this Panthers team, which is worse than the one you beat the crap out of in week 1, then stop trying to tell me what this is, because we can all see what it is.
Yeah, like you said, it looks like Carolina is heading, to another number one overall pick, which would be back-to-back-to-back seasons, which is wild.
Carolina is already in the shadow realm. Yeah. They could have had CJ Stroud. They don't. They could have had Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels. They don't. And they're going to have the number one overall pick, or at least the top 5 pick in a draft that has really no top end. There might be a starter in there, but I can't tell you who it is.
No, the QB class is an elite going into this year. It
reminds me more of the Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder draft than it does last year, which was like a record depth quarterback class. Now, I think there's probably one starter in there. I just don't know who it is. Like it could be Shedeur, it could be Carson Beck. I don't like Carson Beck. I don't think Carson. I watch these guys play, and I'm not like particularly impressed with any of them.
Well, what's funny with Shedeur, obviously he mentioned it, Des, saying that I don't even know if Dion will let him into playing in Carolina. You feel like that's another part of it where you're going to have that involvement dictating where he wants to go.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've had a player, be like, I'm not playing there. I can't remember. Eli Manning might be the last one.
That's what I can recall, right?
And maybe Arch does the same thing. I don't know. Like, it's funny because you wouldn't think of the Manning family as one that would be divas in that way. Like, they're kind of like Archie played here. Archie sacrificed his whole career and played for the Saints.
The Chargers are that bad of an organization that they were like, hell no.
Yeah, and everyone was like, you know what, you're right. Give him to the Giants. Let him do it there. But that would be interesting, and it would not stun me either, just because of you watch how Dion operates as a coach,
right? Doing
a lot of stuff that most coaches would be like, yeah, that's a little much. No, I'm not taking questions from you because you criticized me. Like, oh, you said mean things about my team in your power rankings. Get out of my press conference. So yeah, if you're willing to do that, you're anyway.
No, the draft is going to be obviously huge for both of these teams going into this year, trying to restock the bare cupboards.
Yeah, that's what makes this game so frustrating to talk about. It's kind of like the NFL just put like the Saints and Panthers off in the corner and said, just don't bother anybody. Like you have the troublemakers in class, and you're just like, okay, keep giving up. Just go over there. Just let the rest of this class learn and don't annoy us.
They were smart enough, the NFL, not to make this one of the international games.
Well, the Giants and who are the Giants? They're playing the Panthers right next week in Germany.
I think you're right. Yeah.
I was going to say, what did Germany do to deserve this? And then I thought better of it.
Yes. Good one.
Anyway, yeah, the Giants are just as bad. There's a lot of 2-6 teams in the NFL, man. There's 2-6, 2-7.
There's a lot of bad football teams. Yeah.
And then the Jets won on Thursday Night Football. Good for them, I guess. Did you see the catch?
Oh yeah, the second half for the Jets and Rodgers was awesome, but the first half of football was awful.
The Garrett Wilson catch, still not better than Odell's, but it's like, yeah, something about those when there's a bad team, when there's a bad Giants or Jets team playing in MetLife Stadium, they're gonna make some crazy catches.
Yeah, just unfortunately, it wasn't an LSU player.
It's true. LSU, Ohio State, wide receiver, whatever, same thing.
There you go. Right.
Anyway, all right, let's wrap that segment up. We're gonna come back, talk about X factors, because why not? Let's do it.
For both teams, it might be, do you have a pulse?
Are you breathing? Do we need to call it? Yeah. Anyway, the X factor is the medical staff.
Right.
Okay. Anyway, who dat? Go Saints. We will be right back. This is Inside Black and Gold. Subscribe. And we're back on Inside Black and Gold. Jeff Nowak, Steve Geller, bad football coming at you.
After hearing Dez, maybe you were right about that whole scale of the 10 to, the fan base, the general feeling right now, because man, oh man, Dez looks way more defeated than we do.
You try to convince yourself that a team has a chance in the preseason. Like, it's what you're here to do. It's like, why be negative all the time? But then it's like, oh yeah, that's right. This is the team. And one thing that Dez talked about that we didn't really get into, and I think the same thing is true of the Saints. Like, you look at a team in training camp and you make your assessment off of, okay, the starters look good enough to win. Like the front line, like the first 5 offensive linemen, I think they're good enough to win. The quarterback, the receivers, I think they're good enough to win. The DBs, whatever. But it's not like we don't spend enough time talking about what about the guys who will inevitably have to play. Like, what about the next 5 offensive linemen? Are they good enough to win? What about the backup quarterback? Is he good enough to win? What about the backup running back? What about the 5th and 6th string defensive backs? How about the 4th and 5th linebackers? Are they good enough to win? Because this losing streak, I'm going to tell you, it's not about the starters. It's about the backups. It's about the fact that, hey, guys get hurt in the NFL and you have to have guys that can fill in. And the teams that have those are the ones that typically can avoid these terrible stretches, because every team has injuries. We can pretend, and the Saints have probably got worse luck than most, but it's not to the level that you shouldn't be competitive. It's to the level that it might affect your ability to win games, but not your ability to have any competition whatsoever. And that's where, when there's a failure on a roster, it's usually that. Like, yeah, your top end guys might not be the best in the league, but they're good enough to compete. Not these guys behind them. And so that's where, like, again, like, you'll talk about roster building and like, why don't you have enough young talent? Because the young talent are the ones that's like, okay, yeah, Pete Werner gets hurt. Caden Ellish, go in there and be a guy, right? Like, and that's where Caden Ellis earned a job, earned a contract. No one from the Saints has done that this year. No one from the Saints has gotten an opportunity to go in the game and earned money on that opportunity. Like, tell me who it is. What depth player got into a game and we're like, oh, that guy's going to get paid because he showed out in that spot opportunity? Because there's been plenty of them. There's been a lot of them. Like, there's been opportunity after opportunity for guys to step in and be like, I deserve to start. What Saints player this year has done that?
I'm at a loss of words.
There's none. No one. Like, Anthony Orji has been solid, not great.
Right.
Like, not a guy where you're like, oh, he should be a starter. No. Cornerback? No. Safety? No. Offensive line? No.
Hell no, right?
Quarterback? Hell no. It's just not good, man. It's not good. Running back? Maybe. But like, he would end up not really, because the guy who should have been there got hurt anyway. So I'm just saying, like, that's when you fail as an organization, when you do not have depth behind the starters and your only hope to win is if no one gets hurt, which is never going to be the case.
It's been very sad for sure. Like when you see just that lack of depth being an issue, that falls on obviously the lack of success in the draft has just been abysmal and been a highlight, obviously, the last couple of years with the lack of success from this team.
Yeah, I agree. You don't have enough young talent. You don't make enough draft picks. You don't develop enough players. And this is where you land is you're like, wow, we can't win because of the players on the field.
And the bad part is not everyone, a lot of Saints fans seem to want to bring up, the guys that got away, and the big one, obviously, look what Trey Hendrickson, I always hear people tell me, look what he's doing in Cincinnati. We should have signed him. Well,
I mean, you didn't sign him because you drafted guys to replace him, and the guys you drafted to replace him failed. Like, that's the issue.
Right.
Again, it's not about overpaying in free agency. It's about drafting and developing players. And you have not done that well enough.
At least they haven't done that since, gone and dumped a bunch of money on someone that's fallen flat. At least,
yeah. No, you've the one positive thing you can say about the Saints right now is that they kind of stayed the course this year and didn't get baited into doing something stupid like trading for Devontae Adams or doing whatever else. Like signing Justin Simmons to a contract that was above what you were comfortable paying. Like,
right.
If you're going to lose, in the way the Saints are losing, you want to be able to say you've done it without leveraging in the wrong way. Like you did when you traded that pick to the Eagles and they ended up picking number 10 and you ended up picking number 18 because you traded away that pick that ended up being a very good one in one of your worst seasons you've had.
Right.
The Saints have not done that this year. Speaking of a young player, let's turn this around. Let's turn this around and talk about the Panthers. And speaking of a young player, I got to say, Xavier Legette, if you've never heard him speak, he's a funny guy. And this is him talking about, I'm just going to let it play.
They like it.
What do you do for happiness? You say you're a picky eater. Where are your no-dos?
I don't eat seafood. I don't eat like peppers and onions and all that. I don't really eat vegetables like that.
So you eat like pizza?
Yeah, and I just started eating asparagus. I eat like string beans and green peas, but that's it.
Do they have to be cooked in bacon grease? Do they have to be cooked in bacon grease?
No. That ain't like that.
Huh?
Forever now, I'll say I'll have some asparagus.
No, and it's funny because that's just South Carolina, man. That's how people talk. It's a wild accent. But my favorite one was green peas. Is he saying green peas?
I don't like peppers or onions.
Oh, what a fascinating. And some people be like, oh, they're making fun of him. And it was like, no, I think they're just fascinated by him. Like, yeah. He's a fascinating individual.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely not making fun. I think he's a fun character, and definitely hearing his accent amuses me, but not in a negative kind of way where I'm making fun of him.
You just never would expect it. But no, and so Xavier Legette, he's basically the only player on the Panthers right now that you're like, oh, maybe he can be good. And
they'll probably end up dealing him in a year or two then.
Yeah, well, we'll see. He didn't do anything against the Saints the first time around. We'll see if that changes. But either way, he's eating more asparagus.
You're going to have to head to a visiting locker room in Charlotte and definitely try to get an interview with him.
Asparagus. But anyway, X Factors, let's get them quick because I don't even know why we're doing this. The X Factor is you win or you lose. The X Factor is you win or you're embarrassed. Like, that's the X Factor. All that said, Derek Carr is the X Factor, right? Like, if your offense can't go out there and look positive, look better, look like a team that is capable of scoring points with Derek Carr, then just shut it all down, throw Spencer back in, lose the rest of your games, do whatever, because this is the game where you need to show something.
Yeah, there's no even home field advantage you're worried about with this Carolina squad. They're totally been ripped to shreds too with injuries and a roster that wasn't very good as to begin with. They've dealt away. We've mentioned already their top receiver, their receiving threat. He apparently wasn't happy in Carolina anymore. So yeah, you mentioned with Xavier Legette's probably the best wide out or talent on this team right now. Nothing really scares you there. Hopefully this isn't like a big Chuba Hubbard game where we can't stop him. We mentioned Jonathan Taylor might be in action. Wouldn't expect much, even if he is for them, because he hasn't been in the mix all year. But obviously stopping the run, an X factor in this one, because that's really all the Panthers have going for them. There's not much in that passing game.
Well, yeah, you got to stop the run because, I mean, I don't know if you're going to be able to stop the pass. And that's even against Bryce Young. Like,
I still don't know if Bryce can see.
Yeah, like, I mean, if you end up having to go with like Trey Herndon,
yeah,
and that's a realistic possibility, that's a problem. I'm hopeful that Kool-Aid can play. He practiced on Wednesday, and if he can play, and you get those guys out there, I feel okay about it. And you have Ugo Amadi in the slot, because that's the thing. Who's your slot corner?
Yeah,
I don't know. Because Ugo would be your slot corner if you have to have Alontae play outside, which is the case right now. But if you have to have Ugo play outside, I genuinely don't know. It might be Trey Herndon in the slot for you, or you might play a lot more base. You might be trying to match up with 11 in base, and that would be a problem too. So that's going to be the biggest X factor on defense. Is okay. What does your defensive secondary even look like?
Yeah,
can it get the job done?
I know this isn't a good sign either. If all of a sudden JT Gray's playing safety and you got Jordan Howden in the slot,
I would guess before Jordan Howden, you would go Tyron. That is an option because he at least knows he's done it before. I don't know if I've ever seen Jordan play slot in a game. I do think that you would probably before going to Howden, you would go to Tyron. But either way, again, you're just and then you're over leveraged as safety. You're talking about Jordan Howden and JT Gray as your deep safeties, whoever else, Rod Teamer maybe, like
that's awful.
And this is, again, it goes back to what I was talking about at the beginning of this segment. Like, why is this so ugly the second you get to the depth positions?
Well, to be fair, obviously a Debo, that kind of injury doesn't help. And you remember very well, it's like, why do the Saints investing so much at the corner position? Well, we're seeing that depth that we thought was there has been decimated. But that's once again, that seems to be an issue at in the secondary. That's been a reoccurring thing where there's complaints about, we have too much talent. And then there ends up being, everybody's hurt.
Yeah, the issue is never, hey, there's too much talent.
Right, exactly.
Like, you want too much talent, and then you worry about it afterward. Like, the problem is the Saints don't have enough talent at positions like safety, at positions like receiver. And you're talking about, hey, can we win a game with Bub Means and Mason Tipton?
Right.
No, you can't. Can you win a game without 4 or 5 offensive linemen? No, you can't.
One thing I want to say too, fans' perception is that they feel like Marshawn Lattimore is making business decisions. I don't feel that's the case at all. I think the hamstring issue is legit.
And that's a bigger problem, is that he can't stay healthy. And that's like, we're going to act like this is the first time. Like, he's been hurt each of the last 3 seasons. Like, it's become a major problem for him is he cannot get through a full season. And, prior to this, you could at least say these were freak injuries. You could say like a lacerated kidney or spleen or whatever it was. And then a high ankle sprain, like that's not something, you get rolled up on. You can't really do anything about it. Hamstring injuries is not that. It's not freak injuries. It's just you're getting hurt. Like, you can't make it through a season. He had a hip injury in the preseason. Maybe that's kind of, sometimes you're dealing with one injury, compensate, and you injure other parts of your body. And maybe that's what's happening. I don't know. But like, again, I don't think it's a business decision either. I think the actual reality is worse, and it's that he cannot stay healthy.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, right? Like you said, it was kind of looked at. I agree that the spleen and the ankles, kind of like some freak injuries he ended up having. He'll rebound, and we're seeing that's unfortunately not the case right now.
I'd prefer if it was a business decision, because then it'd be like, hey, if we get in a situation where we need you, you can play. No. I don't think that's the case. I think they have to sit him down and let him get healthy, and that happens way too often with him.
No, just misery now in the secondary when you're not going to have a Marshawn and a Debo obviously present when you thought that would be there.
Yeah, no, it's a problem. It's a problem.
Luckily, though, that doesn't seem like it'll be a problem though for this particular matchup.
We'll see, but that's the thing. If this goes badly, and I think that's the X factor, right? Like, if you get burned by Bryce Young because you have no defensive backs, right?
Man.
And you end up losing a game to the Panthers, who are the worst team in the NFL, because you have no defensive backs. And that's going to be the excuse of like, well, we didn't have any defensive backs. Like, I don't care. You got to go win that game because no one's going to be like, no, maybe next time. No, that'll be your 7th loss in a row. It'll be your longest losing streak since Mike Ditka was here. Like, that doesn't happen by accident. That doesn't happen because of bad luck. That happens because you're bad. Like, that happens because you're a bad football team with bad leadership and bad coaching and bad health. But like, yeah, health is a factor. Health is always going to be a factor when you have a 7-game losing streak. The fact is, good teams find ways to win games. And the Saints aren't a good team.
That's what was curious, too, of the move back to Bryce. And I know that maybe Andy Dalton's not completely healthy right now. He had some comments, I know, to the media, but he would obviously be their best chance to win against New Orleans.
Yeah, I would be more worried if it was Andy.
Right, that veteran that's like, all right, I know this secondary where I can pick them apart.
Well, I mean, he doesn't know the secondary because none of the players he knows are there, but he knows that
could take advantage of it.
Very good.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't think even Bryce can take advantage of this. Well, but
I think Andy could take advantage of a very undermanned secondary a lot better than Bryce would.
Yeah.
And Bryce will. So again, like that's, and I don't know if I think the issue for Andy is maybe that he's not ready to play, so they don't want to play him.
Yeah, from the depths of the Carolina Panthers, it's still Bank of America Stadium.
Yeah.
Andy trots out after halftime, comes on the field, and then we're all like, uh-oh.
And he pulls out the ATM card and makes a withdrawal from the Saints' soul.
Oh. And then in a couple of weeks, we have to play another Saints former backup quarterback.
And there is no fee for that withdrawal.
Oh.
Sorry, my bad. All right, let's wrap up this podcast. This has been ugly. This has been, it's like I feel bad even throwing a podcast at people and being like, yeah, let's talk about it. Because like, who wants to hear about this? Like the fact that y'all are listening blows my mind.
We love you.
Because like it's the way this season has gone is just so demoralizing. And I think people will start yelling at Cam Jordan at grocery stores if things don't turn around soon.
It's almost like we're more of a support group than providing any kind of information.
It does. It feels like we are the chairs of a support group of a Saints Anonymous.
Gather around and let us know, right?
Yeah. Tell us tell us your truth. This is a safe space. But all right, let's wrap it up. Who dat? I'm Jeff Nowak. He's Steve Geller. Thanks to Jez Johnson. Thanks to Des Johnson for coming on. Another, he's the leader of the Panthers support group called Believe in Carolina Panthers.
And he looks like he needs some help right now.
Yeah. But we're going to keep going. Saints 2-6 visiting the Panthers 1-7. The winner of this game is going to have a shiny 2 or 3 win record coming out of it, feeling great about themselves. That's facetious, but we're going to see what happens either way. Thanks everyone for hanging out. Who dat? What you got, Steve?
Share some if you want to share some Kit Kats or some Twix bars, please send them my way.
I was able to get rid of all my candy, which I'm happy about.
Wow. I still got a bunch of Skittles left.
Yeah. Well, the last 3 kids that came through, I just dumped it all in their bag.
Right.
I don't want this, but I was worried for a minute because it was raining. I was like, oh God, we're going to be left with pounds and pounds of candy. But apparently, I don't know, they almost have hid under a tarp or something. Because the second it stopped raining, it was like, whoa, good stuff.
Yeah, sadly, it was very slow night for me as well. As I think I answered the door a total of 3 times.
Yeah, we have a pretty good thing in our neighborhood where people hang out on their porches. So and we've gotten a reputation now. So people come to our block, our area, because they know there's going to be 20 or 30 people.
Stuff.
And they were just thanks for still being out here. I'm like, thanks for taking the candy. Because I don't need to be eating fun size Snickers bars for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, because fun size, it ends up being 8 wrappers at your feet, and you're like, I'm a slob.
Exactly. You're very aware of how much you are eating, and it's a problem. But all right, who dat? Go Saints. Happy Halloween. Dress up as a team that can win. Be easy, y'all.
Who dat?